The modest origins of XTERRA, which celebrates the outdoors, bringing athletes into their natural environment in some of the most remote and dazzling locales on the globe, belie the thriving enterprise the sport is today. With competitions on 5 continents, XTERRA is a serious professional racing circuit, featuring some of the most gifted and gritty endurance athletes in the world. But what was the genesis of this challenging, often thrilling, occasionally heartbreaking sport, in which competitors battle themselves and each other for prestige and prize money? The idea was born a quarter-century ago in the outdoor sports paradise that is Hawaii.
Well, the truth of the matter is that our founders were in the event and television business long before we ever thought of XTERRA. Our first event was called the Hawaiian International Ocean Challenge. It was a lifeguard competition for professional lifeguards. It started out with just a few teams, Hawaii, California, and Australia. But we ended up with people from all over the world, New Zealand, UK, Japan, Canada, New Jersey, Florida, and that's what started our whole event and television career.
And from there, the Ocean Fest just blew up. It became things like Ocean Ironman. We had Wahine windsurfers, we had biathlons, we had beach volleyball. We were all over. But at the same time, we also got involved in cycling. We started out with road racing, and Phil Liggett was the on-site commentator and the on-air commentator when we made the television shows for ESPN. And it was just fantastic.
Hi everybody, I'm Phil Liggett along with Peter Graves, and mountain biking has found its way to the islands of paradise, and this is Kualoa Ranch on the island of Oahu. It's the scene here now for 4 days of cycling along with the nearby Waimea Valley, which has brought the best mountain bike riders in the world, both men and women, into a 4-day competition here. It is the Outrigger Hotel's Hawaiian Mountain Tour.
A couple years into that, we introduced the first ever downhill stage race, which was huge fun to watch. And so that thing became a great experience for all of us.
And in the middle of that, we saw mountain bikers riding around covered with mud, go down to the ocean, jump in, swim around, and we looked at ourselves and we said, hey, this looks like it could be something. It could be an off-road triathlon.
XTERRA Adventures is presented by Tea Tree. The Experience. Discover the magic of Tea Tree. XTERRA. Racing and apparel for your active lifestyle. Visit xterraplanet.com. This segment is presented by Tea Tree. The Experience. Discover the magic of Tea Tree. Hawaii has always been a preferred playground of outdoor athletes. By the 1990s, with road triathlons increasing in popularity, organizers of the first XTERRA decided to create an off-road tri, which would pit the Type A traditionalists against the more laid-back mountain bikers. The race, called the Aqua Terra, was set for November 1996 on Maui, and it caught the attention of the best endurance athletes of the time.
I feel like maybe I just saw an ad in Inside Triathlon or something, and I was immediately, yes, I will be there.
I saw an ad for the Aqua Terra in a magazine, and I thought this looks pretty cool, you know, because I had a triathlon background in the early 80s.
My name is Jimmy Riccatello. I'm the 1996 Aqua Terra champion. No one had any idea what that course was like year one because we weren't allowed to pre-ride it.
I'm Scott Schumaker. I was lucky enough to be at the very first XTERRA in 1996 and did just about every XTERRA after that for the next 4 or 5 years.
Ned Overend here. I was one of the competitors at the first Aqua Terra before it became XTERRA. I was third in that first one, and that motivated me to chase the win, and I went on to win in 98 and 99.
I'm Shari Kain, 1999 XTERRA World Champion.
I'm Scott Tinley. I had the pleasure of hosting the first off-road triathlon in the fall of 1995, Tinley's Dirty Adventures, but more so the opportunity to be at the very first XTERRA in the fall of 1996 and a whole bunch of races with that amazing XTERRA family for years after.
For the past several years, the triathlon has been the benchmark sport, determining the fittest and most well-rounded athletes in the world. But all that changes today, as the three grueling disciplines of swimming, cycling, and running just got harder. No more smooth asphalt, no more drafting. Dirt, rocks, sand, and sun have become the new arena in a new age of multi-sport competition.
1.5 kilometers from Alua Beach to Wailea Beach. These competitors are going to have two things on their mind, speed or survival. Speed for the top swimmers to try to get as big a lead as they can going into the mountain bike leg, and those mountain bikers just trying to survive this swim. Now let's go to Peter Graves, our mountain biking expert.
Thanks very much, Craig. Well, we're ready to go here at the airport in Maui. In just a moment, we'll be giving you a bird's eye view of the competition today.
Going into the first Aqua Terra, XTERRA, whatever you want to call it, I think, if I remember correctly, we were looking at, it was mostly triathletes that were there. There were a couple mountain bikers like Shari Kain showed up. So it was mostly road triathletes who were brave enough to try to get on the dirt.
It was so cool that it was a mass start. I mean, a lot of the events don't even do mass starts anymore. So you have that extra excitement. I mean, all the pros, the men and the women and the age groupers, everyone going together into the water is pretty exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time.
It was sort of like a great atmosphere because it wasn't like anybody really knew how they were going to go. So in terms of how everyone was like treating each other, it was like a big family. It was like everyone was having a great time leading up to the race.
The swim, always beautiful in Hawaii. Swam over the top of a couple turtles. That was great. Brent Eminen's feet, I remember those really well. The bike, dusty, double track, gnarly downhill called the plunge that wasn't terribly like crazy single track at all, but it was just bouncing over lava rocks to the point that your jaws were breaking. And then the run, I remember a lot of sand that felt like cement in my shoes. And I think there was the last beach was like all these little baby head sized rocks, like Black and White Beach, I think, Salt and Pepper Beach.
The inaugural XTERRA competition took place in Maui on a spectacular November day in 1996. And leading the 123 competitors early on was a professional Ironman triathlete who was stepping down in distance.
Dan Brent Eminen is leading the swim. He's led it from the start. Basically, he's first out of the water.
Eminen was rolling, while Australia's Michellie Jones, a two-time ITU triathlon world champ, was first out of the water for the women. But Jones was soon overtaken by Shari Kain, a US cycling champion who was testing herself in a new sport.
The top triathletes have, I look up to them, I have a lot of respect for them. They've really put in, had awesome seasons, and this is a little bit more relaxed, but yet it is a competition, so when the gun goes off, everyone wants to be confident, but you can't be confident, of course, you haven't been on, so.
The mountain bike stage is underway. It's going to be a very tough race for these guys today, particularly the triathletes who are a little bit more unfamiliar with handling the technical single track.
the mountain bike course stymied some of the road triathletes, like Michellie Jones and Brent Immonen. Jimmy Riccitello, a scrappy 32-year-old from Arizona, took a commanding lead in the men's race. Scott Tinley was riding well, and Ned Overend, the mountain bike legend, was flying, making up huge amounts of time after a poor swim. Triathletes and cyclists, traditionalists and off-road adventurers, all converging on the dirt to determine the best athlete of the day.
It was just this magnificent mixture of people with varying backgrounds, mountain biking and triathlon, duking it out on this unbelievably difficult volcanic mountain bike course that we had over there in Wailea. We also came up with a term that said, Mother Nature would be your greatest competitor. And that's an interesting statement, because that statement, even though it was made 25 years ago, you still hear it today.
I mean, epic is the perfect way to describe that event, you know, all of your events, but that one in particular, and that course was a major test. And when we all sat down afterwards and sort of replayed the event in our heads, we're like, holy crap, we did something really cool.
Jimmy Riccitello held the lead over Mike Pigg and Ned Overend, going into the decisive third leg.
Get changed quickly. Jimmy Riccitello very fast in the transition.
The reason I think the run is the most important leg of this triathlon is because, first of all, it comes at the end of the other two, so you'll be fatigued. It starts out in a grassy, rocky, downhill where you got to be real careful not to twist your ankle. But then it gets out onto McKenna Beach, and you're running, I don't know, maybe it's only 3/4 or a half mile probably, but it feels like a long way.
Not slowing down was Riccitello, who had taken the lead in the mountain bike and never relinquished it. He won by more than 3 minutes, a dominating performance that made him the inaugural XTERRA World Champion.
To this day, I think that finish line experience and that entire week, to be honest, was one of my best memories of racing triathlon.
In the women's race, Michellie Jones erased a 7-minute deficit on the run to overtake mountain bike specialist Shari Kain.
I was just trudging for the finish line on that last beach, and then then Michellie comes by me.
I tried to control the stuff that I can control. It's like running as quick as I can on my toes through the sand.
And here's our women. Michellie Jones is going to win it. Kisses for the crowd as they cheer her on to the finish line. Our first women's champion and the first ever Aqua Terra.
That's the whole race. They wanted to see triathlete against mountain bike, and it ended up really close.
In '96, I was encouraged by the fact that I came in third. And I think I was a couple minutes behind Mike Pigg at the time.
Pigg finished second and would go on to claim the XTERRA World title the following year, in 1997. Meanwhile, Overend, a mountain biking world champion, was looking for a new sport and a new challenge at age 41.
That was the first year. It had some good prize money. For sure, more people were going to come to it from mountain biking, and more people were going to come to it from triathlon. So the people that came into it every year were kind of unknowns. So it was a huge challenge, and I was excited about it. You know, I was ready to take on something new, and of course my goal was to win at it.
The hot conditions and the unrelenting course made the first XTERRA brutally tough, but the competitors and the spectators were hooked.
You know, I think pretty quickly we realized we were onto something pretty special. The television show that we produced from the first one, the word of mouth that went out from Aqua Terra was just fantastic. The legend kind of built instantly. And we were getting calls from people in, California and other places saying, we want you to bring this XTERRA to us. So we did do a few XTERRAs outside of Hawaii in the subsequent years. And in 1999, it became extremely apparent to me that this thing had a life of its own.
XTERRA was a phenomenon, with global appeal. Within 3 years of the original race in Maui, organizers had put together a 10-stop domestic tour. And as the new millennium dawned, XTERRA began expanding all over the planet, with events in Asia, Oceania, South America, Africa, and Europe. Adventurous endurance athletes came to know XTERRA not just as the Nissan SUV, but as the ultimate off-road racing experience.
A lot of people would be surprised to know that we owned the name XTERRA before Nissan did in the United States. And it was just a fortuitous thing where we had both come up with it independently. We registered the trademark first, and they found us at the trademark office, and we were able to work together to help them launch their SUV and at the same time build a global sport.
XTERRA Adventures is presented by Tea Tree. The experience. Discover the magic of tea tree. XTERRA. Racing and apparel for your active lifestyle. Visit xterraplanet.com. XTERRA as we know it today is a competitive sport, a lifestyle, a calling that brings athletes closer to nature and to each other. It calls on them to dig deep, to push hard, to discover and celebrate what they're capable of. It unites thousands of participants in races all across the globe. The community, the movement that is XTERRA, exists because of the spirit of the original warriors who raced in 1996.
It was a great race. It was a very exciting format, and we really enjoyed watching it and talking about it. And most importantly was that the 123 athletes that started on the beach all finished. I can remember what Tinley said after he finished. He said that it brought him back to the roots of the sport. And I thought that was a great compliment for us, because it did say a lot for how we felt like family, that it was a relatively low-key, not too many rules kind of scenario, and they were very comfortable in it. So we had a blast.
The enduring appeal of XTERRA is in its variety. Each course is unique, with its own obstacles and conditions that keep competitors working, improvising, and striving to improve.
When I did that first XTERRA, it really reminded me of the early days of mountain biking, where it was like, wow, this sport is amazing. This sport it's different, it's super challenging, it's happening in beautiful places, and it's the kind of challenge that, that people want to take on, something different, than regular road triathlon or regular mountain biking.
It's always interesting when you look back and see the progression of triathlon. It says a lot about our sport, how people love it. And I think that's one of the things, that you can swim, bike and run, but throw in some mountain biking. It sort of suits like a totally different athlete, but it also engages athletes that, may go like, you know what, I like triathlon, but I really want to get challenged. And I think that's where XTERRA were brilliant in their marketing. This is a triathlon, but let's take it to the next level.
Since the first XTERRA, the sport has been gaining traction. But not everyone who took part in the original race in 1996 knew then that it would gain such a passionate following.
As far as XTERRAs or off-road triathlons in general becoming this global phenomenon, I certainly wanted it to become that, but I never dreamed it'd become something as huge as what XTERRA's blossomed it into. I just find it really incredible, and it's kind of brilliant that so many people have fallen in love with it.
The energizing spirit of XTERRA inspires not just the participants themselves, but also their support crews, family, friends, local spectators, and organizers.
the family atmosphere that the organizers had created from the very beginning, and how that was so obvious at every level and every aspect of the event, including the award ceremony and the parties and the follow-up, and that I just you don't see that enough in organized participatory sports anymore. And I think kudos go to the group for creating and sustaining that, and it certainly provided me with years and years of amazingly fond memories.
When COVID-19 has abated, the reunion of the XTERRA family will be especially sweet.
When we look back at what happened in 2020 and see how many races unfortunately got cancelled, including the 25th anniversary of the XTERRA World Championships, it makes you appreciate that how lucky we are that we do get to swim, bike and run and do the stuff that we love. And I think it's going to be a bigger and better celebration in 2021 for the fact that people realize how fragile the world can be and how we can still all get together and get through it. And you know what? I'm going to do as many races as I can, because you never know when it's going to get taken away from you.
Coming up in the next episode of XTERRA Adventures. Even in a sport where resilience and grit are in ample supply, these XTERRA warriors set themselves apart, persevering and excelling despite significant physical challenges. We introduce you to some of the most inspiring stories in all of sport. That's next time on XTERRA Adventures.